Call to order. Attendance. Trustee Burgess is not in attendance tonight. She's ill and she sent her regrets. Approval of the agenda. Trustee Hatfield, do we have a second? Trustee Leclerc, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Declaration of conflict of interest. No. Approval of minutes of October 1st meeting. Pardon? Trustee Higginson and Leclerc. Business, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Business arising from the minutes. It doesn't look like there is any. There's no presentations. We might set a world record tonight going through this. No delegations. Speakers list, none. New business, none. Trustee expenditure reports, K1. Any questions or concerns? No? Yeah, yes. Yep.
For the reports for the trustees' expense, I wonder if, like the laptop, do you put the expense for just the current year or depreciation for different years? You know what I mean?
Sean?
Yeah, just the expense for the laptop would be reflective in here. All amortization is not put through any trustee accounts.
What I mean is that we have the laptop but used for several years. But do you depreciate it or no?
Just the initial cost of the laptop or any one-time costs are captured in here.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. K2, accounts receivable written off for year ended August 31st, 2019. There were no write-offs, which is good work on behalf of staff. Trustee question period. Yes.
Through you, Mr. Chair. I had a question. I recently attended the OSPA Western Regional meeting, and one of the discussions that we had was around GSNs, and we had a conversation about transportation, and I admittedly did not know if that funding was quote-unquote enveloped or unenveloped, and there was a discussion about whether boards were typically overspent in transportation. For my own knowledge, but also for the knowledge of the other trustees and the public, what is our spending on transportation? And if we do, I thought we were underspent, and if we are underspent, how is that money enveloped?
Trustee Armstrong? I mean, Superintendent Armstrong?
We've had that problem today. With respect to your question, in prior years, the board has had a surplus in terms of its funding for transportation relative to its expenditures. While I don't want to comment specifically regarding this year because we are in the process of finalizing the audit, right now we would be showing a deficit for our transportation funding relative to expenditures. A lot of that is because just simply the cost of transportation are rising far faster than the funding model is providing. In terms of whether that funding is enveloped or non-enveloped, it is non-enveloped. So if we had a surplus, for example, we would not be required to return it to the ministry, and we would use that funding to support other initiatives in our budget.
Supplementary?
So supplemental to that, it's a two-part question. One, how different are we than other boards across the province? Because all other boards reported being in a deficit position in terms of transportation. And then secondly, you mentioned this year you can't comment on, but year over year, are we consistently in a surplus, or have we been? And that might not be a question for you, but to the director.
Through you. We have been in a surplus, which is actually, I wouldn't say common across the province. A lot of boards are facing deficits in the area of transportation. So we have been, I think, quite fortunate. You will probably have seen in the press some of the boards, because of collective agreement settlements, have had huge deficits. And so we're actually fairly well positioned, I think, compared to some Ontario school boards.
Okay, any further trustee questions? I do have one. A lot has been, sorry? Said sorry, I didn't see you over there. No, go ahead, I'll ask it later.
It's actually, I just have been reading a few articles about the high levels of lead reported in some Windsor water testing. I just was wondering, do the school boards monitor the school water drinking fountains and whatnot in our schools to ensure that it's safe for our students?
Director?
Yes, there is regular monitoring of that. In fact, you might see sometimes a lead exceedance, a slight amount would be posted. So there is actually legislation that demands that we do posting on that. And so there's regular monitoring of that.
Anybody else? Yes, supplementary.
Does that posting mean that we don't allow people to drink the water? Or is it just an awareness?
Yeah, to your question, there would be, the fountain would be closed off, so there would be a bag or something that's put over it so that no one is drinking from that until they redo the testing, and they make sure that the levels are at an appropriate place for that.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, there's been a lot of media attention on teacher layoffs with regard to the new funding models that we have. And I know we've done quite well, comparatively speaking, to other boards. I'm just wondering if Superintendent Armstrong knows the number of layoffs we've had here. Superintendent Houston, yes.
Thank you. We currently do not have anybody in a layoff position.
Okay, that's good news. On that, we'll move to notices of motion. Are there any? Doesn't look like it. Announcements? Anybody have announcements? I guess we're adjourned.
Into public session. Okay. Okay, we have previously convened the public session meeting for attendance. It's the same as previously approved the agenda. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest for this portion of the meeting? Seeing none. There are no actions of the board meeting private session. Can I have a mover to approve the minutes, please? Trustee Olmsted, seconded by Trustee Leclerc. Any comments, questions? Seeing none, all those in support of the minutes as presented? Any opposed? And that carries. Thank you. Any business arising from the minutes? Seeing none. There were no recommendations from the standing committees. Any notices of motion? Notices of motion? Seeing none. And now we are adjourned. Thank you very much.